How's it going, laser bruisers? I'm Bobby Sixkilla and welcome back to Route Double. We have jumped into the past, future. I don't even know. We had the broken watch, and we opened the door, and bam, time travel. Let's carry on. The jammed gate opened with a jarring sound. Before Natsuhiko could think, he tumbled over from the excess momentum. As he knocked his back against the floor. Ow, ow, ow! Natsuhiko, are you okay? Marshido called out to him. Oh, we're back here again, in the burning shithole. Salu silently looked down on him. Natsuhiko was confused for a second as to what was going on. That's right, I was trying to escape from Lapo. And after straining to wrench open a jammed gate, they'd finally gotten it open. Yuri looked at Natsuhiko and anxiously spoke. Can you stand? Yeah. Natsuhiko got up and looked toward the gate. More importantly, let's go. Area 2 is probably ahead. They all nodded and rushed towards Area 2. But still, Natsuhiko thought to himself, they were in such a desperate situation, yet Natsuhiko just spent a moment in deep reminiscence. Why now? Why am I remembering what happened these past few days? He vividly recalled what happened that day, as if time had rewound itself. He experienced with such clarity the conversation he had with Marshido at the park, and the time Sully showed up at their house too. No, this is not the time to be looking toward the past. Concentrate on getting out of here. As soon as Natsuhiko had that thought, two bizarre silhouettes appeared further down the hall. What are those? Natsuhiko and the others stopped in their tracks. The two shadows were unidentifiable people with their faces hidden behind masks. They spoke as they headed toward the group. You kids sure as heck aren't staff members. What are you doing down here? And you are? We're the rescue squad that received a distress call from Labo. Rescue squad? Natsuhiko breathed a sigh of relief upon hearing those words. Thank goodness. If we leave Yuri with these people, that's one thing off our minds. You kids must be survivors, right? Yeah, what happened down here by coincidence? We happened to be down here by coincidence and got caught up in all this. Anyone else with you? No, just the four of us. How many did you say? Just us four. We have a particularly frail girl with us, so can we entrust her to you? Understood. Let us see her real quick, and as the rescue squad members spoke, he reached a hand out to Natsuhiko. When suddenly, he found a foot lodged in his abdomen. The rescue worker collapsed onto the floor from the impact of the kick. Huh? Natsuhiko looked to the girl next to him in shock. It was Sully that had kicked that man. She looked at Natsuhiko with level-headed eyes. What are you doing? The other rescue worker grabbed at Sully's shoulder. Sully grabbed the hand, and not a second later, she hurled the man away. The rescue worker hit the floor and lost consciousness. Sully, why? Sully responded to Marshido's hollow voice with a Natsuhiko, Marshido, you guys are too soft. You let your guard down too quick. Huh? Why are you so quick to trust people? Sully's cold gaze. One look from her and Natsuhiko was instantly reminded of a sight he'd once saw. Those same eyes she had when they first met. Those gazing eyes that looked at Natsuhiko expressionlessly from within the onlookers at the car crash. No, why? As soon as Natsuhiko had that thought, Yuri whispered from beside him. Hikarin, have you forgotten? Have you forgotten what sort of girl Salyu is? Huh? She's been with you all the way up to today, isn't she? Do you not understand the truth hidden behind her words? You can take your time, but I want you to remember what is real and what is a lie. Hikarin, you should already know who it is you must trust. You cannot grasp the true intention of those words. The answer lies in your memories. The memories of that day. As soon as those words left Yuri's lips, Natsuhiko saw his watch in the corner of his eye. The tiny numbers on the dial were almost bizarrely clear and distinct. 9:12, 6:39. What happened on that day? Natsuhiko tried to confirm what Yuri meant, as he struggled to form his thoughts into words. And we're going back. Natsuhiko sprung up in his bed. Huh? For a second he couldn't tell where he was. He took a look around before coming to a slow realization that he was in his room. His heart was still thumping hard. That same dream again. Every so often, Natsuhiko would wake up from a nightmare like this. But every time he'd wake up, he'd forget about the particulars of the nightmare. Probably had something to do with that day 9 years ago, or perhaps... What a way to start the morning. Natsuhiko shook his head in frustration before changing and leaving the room. Chapter 3. When he got to the living room, Yuri and Sally were already there. Good morning, Hikinen. Yuri greeted them with a warm smile. Sally, on the other hand, just looked at him silently. Yesterday still seemed hard to believe. A beautiful French-Japanese prodigy abruptly moved into his house. But apparently it was no dream. Good morning, Yuri. Sally? Not used to greetings, Sally awkwardly attempted a reply. Morning. The moment Sally said that, Mashido popped out of the kitchen. Ah, good morning, Natsuhiko. Breakfast is just about ready. Help me prepare. Oh, sure. Mashido seemed to be the same as always. Natsuhiko went through the motions of helping to prepare it for breakfast. And soon enough, a small family-sized portion of French toast, salad, and some coffee was laid out on the table. I tried matching today's breakfast with how it's done in Sally's home country. The salad has French dressing, and the coffee is French roast. It's all French style, huh? Looks delicious again today. Okay, everyone, put your hands together. Thanks for the food. And thus, they began to eat, leaving Natsuhiko bewilderment unresolved. Mashido and Yuri were always same as always. But the addition of Sally made this no ordinary morning. That was what bewildered Natsuhiko. And then, after the breakfast was over, Natsuhiko, Mashido, and Sally had to go to school, and they turned on the lights on their way out. The three of them departed, leaving Yuri at home. When Mashido and Natsuhiko entered the classroom with Sally, it stirred a commotion among the classmates. Huh? Tenkawa? Why are you with Toba and Miss Sanomiya today? No, we just happened to get here at the same time. Natsuhiko's grandiose answer prompted a chuckle and a whisper from Mashido. Wow, smooth save there, Mr. Natsuhiko. I'm happy with that. You sure seem calm about it. We can't say anything unnecessary here. Unnecessary? Like how we're living together? Well, I guess it'll help the three of us get along if we make this our little secret. Our little secret, huh? Indeed, living together meant that it'd be best that they get along, at least a little bit. However, Natsuhiko didn't think sharing a little secret was the best way to achieve that goal. Sure, I guess it's best to leave it a secret between the three of us for the time being, so we can avoid any misunderstandings. Okay, good. This is kind of exciting. Sally nodded at Mashido's words. Natsuhiko sighed a little as he made it to his desk. The first lesson of the day was parapsychology. Now then, today we'll review yesterday's field trip. We learned a lot of things we usually don't touch upon during regular classes, didn't we? So what did you all learn? Care to start, Mr. Natsuhiko Tenkawa? Huh? A devilish smile formed on Ina's face when she saw Natsuhiko's surprise to hear his name called out so suddenly. It appeared to be payback for him spacing out yesterday. But you were so nice yesterday, you're so mean, Professor. Yeah, like, how about the link between the brain and BC that staff member mentioned? Exactly, research in the fields of BC and brain psychology are closely related. Ina tapped on her own head as she spoke. In short, BC is a direct brain-to-brain communication. It incites stimuli on a third party's brain cells, causing the secretion of neurotransmitters. Other students began to raise their voices at those words. Huh? That's how it works? Oh, I'm sure we've gone over that in class. Well, you don't necessarily need to know the underlying principles in order to use BC, but there's no harm in learning, is there? In layman's terms, telepathy stimulates the part of the brain responsible for hearing to produce the same response as if it were actually hearing it. Conversely, empathy works by catching the thoughts that leak from other people's brains and interpreting them as spoken words. So either way, they're both kinds of hallucinations? I mean, it does sound like actual sounds, but what really happens is that the information is directly conveyed to the brain, so true, but since it's the brain perceiving the information, that might already make it a hallucination to begin with. Huh? What do you mean? Let's see. Do you all know what blind spots are? Blind spots? I've heard of them, but Humans lack photoreceptors on the retina where the optic nerve passes through it. You actually don't see anything there. Yeah, the eye makes up everything else for you. Well, the brain makes it up. You mean there's a blank spot in the middle of our vision? Natsuhiko couldn't quite follow what Ina was saying. I guess it's a little hard to explain in words, so instead, I'll send you a figure so you can experience it firsthand. Ina fiddled with the computer to send image data to the student's tablet's PC. It was an image with just 2 black dots. Okay, so close your right eye and use your left eye to look at the dot on the right. Natsuhiko looked at the dot as instructed, and then slowly move your face closer to the screen. Once you're about 15 centimeters away, what happens? Ah! Natsuhiko couldn't help but exclaim. The dot that he could have sworn was there had disappeared. The other students appeared to have the same reaction, and the classroom broke into a commotion. Understand what happened, class? The black dot entered the left eye's dead spot. The dead spot is a place where the eye cannot see. In other words, an empty space. Humans cannot see anything inside those dead spots. I see. But that's kind of strange. How can we have a hole in our vision without normally being aware of it? It is strange, isn't it? That's because the brain automatically fills in the gaps. Isn't our eyesight also upside down? Our brain just automatically writes it up the right way and fills in the gap? Okay, next I'll send you an image to demonstrate how that works. And with that, Ina sent the students another image. It was a figure with a black line, with a break on one side, and a dot on the other. Same thing as last time, close your right eye and use your left eye to look at the dot. As instructed, Natsuhiko closed his right eye and brought his face closer to the image. And when he did... Huh? Natsuhiko was surprised once again. Now the broken line appeared to be smooth and continuous. Interesting, isn't it? This is what I meant when I said the brain automatically fills the gap. Because of your blind spot, you can't see the part where the line is broken. But your brain functions automatically to fill in that gap. Furthermore, this is always happening, even when you're just looking at your environment normally. Huh? Natsuhiko finally realized. So the reason the line looked continuous because that's how my brain filled in the gap, huh? In other words, the brain apparently assumed that the line wouldn't suddenly just break there. It's obviously continuous. And in the same way, the brain is continuously or automatically filling in the dead spots. So that's why we're never consciously aware of our dead spots in everyday life. Understand, class? This is what I meant when I said that things the brain perceives are hallucinations to begin with. What lies before our eyes isn't exactly the way it actually is. Everything, without exception, is filtered by the brain before we perceive it. What we see isn't everything, and everything we see isn't necessarily real. So maybe everything she's saying is a hallucination as well. But it might be a bit of a stretch to say that, Natsuhiko chuckled to himself. So do you now understand that when humans perceive their world, it has to be through their brains as a necessity? BC, as you all know, is a communication directly influencing the brain. Theoretically, that influence isn't limited to the sense of hearing. Perhaps it's not limited to just telepathy and empathy either. If visually influenced telepathy exists, then perhaps taste reading empathy could exist as well. Perhaps one can even convey the entire world one perceives to someone else. The possibilities of BC are endless, so keep training every day until you can open up a new path yourselves. Who knows, one day you may find a third ability beyond that of telepathy or empathy. Ina springboarded off that note to begin the actual lesson. The connection between the brain and BC, the parts of the brain that perceived BC, the theoretical mechanisms. She reached a good stopping point right as the bell rang. Class ended, and as they left into the hall, they heard the usual bizarre commotion. Miss Munakata, could you please give me your answer? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you in such a tough spot. How many times do I have to tell you? You using telepathy is what's putting me in a tough spot. Come see me in person, then maybe we can talk. But that's too high of a hurdle for me to reach, it's embarrassing. You've been confessing in front of the entire school, a little late to shy away now. You're such a weirdo, you know? Okay, let's get this started. Shin, our secret training for directional telepathy. Okay, let's try it. Benizaki. Let's do this. Miss Ina's bust looks about 91 centimeters. How's that? Hear me? Loud and clear. Wait, crap, now that I think about it, we can't tell if it's directional or not, if it's just the two of us. What? Mashido started to talk as a way of actively ignoring the noise. Hey, Natsuhiko, that was an interesting lesson, wasn't it? Yeah, that's the first for parapsychology. But it was kind of odd, wasn't it? If it's all true, that means the world I see and the world you see could actually be completely different, doesn't it? It's interesting because this is obviously a theme of the game, right? Because also they were talking about how, Yuri was talking about how the memories you remember are subtly rewritten every time you remember them, so It's all about what you see and what you understand and what you remember not being 100% accurate in any way. That seems to be the main theme of the game, right? I guess we'll find out as we go. Maybe time also gets put into that. Does it? Visual and auditory hallucinations are an obvious example of how different people perceive things differently, right? Some people see things others don't see, or hear things others don't hear. Yeah, that's true. Visual and auditory hallucinations are a category of brain activity, so if those activities vary from person to person, then so too does perception. 8 billion people in the world have 8 billion brains, each perceiving 8 billion different worlds. Each of them perceives their own world as the world, but that world of theirs can perhaps at times become distorted. That's kind of a scary thought. For some reason, Natsuhiko felt a chill. So I guess in a certain sense, telepathy is a way to intentionally cause auditory hallucinations then. Well, there's a peculiarity to the way it sounds, so you can tell it's telepathy though. It'd be annoying if that weren't the case. You'd lose track of what's a real voice, what's an auditory hallucination, and what's telepathy. Yeah, you might think you were going crazy if you keep hearing voices. If that were the case though, would there be some concrete way of figuring out if something was a real voice or not? Mashido casually remarked and suddenly got a response from behind. No, there wouldn't. Is it Ina? Nope. They turned around in shock to find that Salyu had been standing right behind them before. You can't think of a way either, Salyu. I can't because it doesn't exist. It's just as difficult as attempting to differentiate a real voice from an auditory hallucination. Huh? Really? The brain at times believes that hallucinations are real. What do you think happens then? Salyu switched her glance from Mashido to Natsuhiko. Huh? What happens if you think the hallucinations are real? What would happen? I really don't know. Wouldn't a hallucination still be a hallucination though? Wouldn't you feel fear if you heard or saw something out of the ordinary? No. The air seemed to creak the moment Salyu cut in. The moment the brain decides to believe it, the person hallucinating fully accepts it as the truth. Since the hallucination exists to that person, they feel no fear nor doubt, even though it's a hallucination? Even though it's a hallucination? Because they don't know that. A flustered Mashido cut in after Salyu's firm assertion. Hey Salyu, what's all this all of a sudden? Weren't you the one who started this conversation? Salyu responded vaguely to Mashido and continued. An example. In 1857 there was an inventor in the French commune of Wissembourg who was trying to create a telephone. It was said that it was to be technically impossible at the time, but he still stepped up to the challenge. 20 years and many hardships passed, and then the inventor finally succeeded. Or at least, he thought he did. The inventor thought he did? He gathered all the people for a grand unveiling of the telephone's debut. He installed a telephone in the house next door. The neighbour spoke to the inventor through the receiver and said, "Hello, can you hear me?" But at his own house, this is what the inventor had heard through the receiver. "Congratulations, you're a grand inventor." The telephone was completely inoperable. That moment, a chill ran down Natsuhiko's spine. That's a spooky story. In short, it's thought that the voice he heard through the receiver was a type of hallucination. Perhaps the inventor had gone mad. In the end, the inventor never once doubted that he truly invented the telephone. In 1876, when Graham Bell received the patent on the telephone, the other inventor filed a lawsuit saying his invention had been stolen. No way, he was that deluded in his belief. Natsuhiko was reminded of what Yuri had told him about memories last night, but it felt like something was just a little different. But Salyu answered with a nod. The brain actively works to rationalize its perceptions and eliminate inconsistencies. This is just an obvious example of that. Depending on the circumstances, the brain will even distort reality. As far as the inventor was concerned, the hallucination was the truth and the real voice was the fabrication. No matter what those around him said, he never once doubted what he thought to be the truth. And so, Mashido raised her voice before Salyu could finish. "Salyu!" Natsuhiko gasped. Mashido's voice was trembling. "Hey, Salyu, please stop. That story's kinda scary." "I didn't mean to scare you." No. I'm sorry, please forget it." "What's wrong, Mashido? You don't like scary stories?" Yeah, I guess I'm not good with those sorts of stories." Mashido spoke with a wry smile as she held a finger up to her temple. "That was a pretty good horror story though, Salyu, but if you scare me too much like that, you're gonna make me cry, okay? If you tell stories like that again, I might have to tell on you to Dr. Tenkawa, you hear?" Salyu's face stiffened at those words. "Come on, Mashido, calm down." Roger, I'll be careful. Please, for real. With a pitiful look on her face, Mashido glanced at Natsuhiko. Oh, was it that scary? I guess even you can act like a girl from time to time, huh? Oh, shut up. I'm okay with ghosts and stuff, but I'm terrible with psychological horror. Well, that's good to know. So ever heard of this story? Huh? What story? There was this experiment in America after World War II, meant to test the limits of human madness. I haven't heard that story, but please stop. I've already got a bad feeling about this. First, they attached electrodes to the experimental subject and locked them in a room. I don't want to hear anymore. Why are we doing this? I said that I liked her. I've maxed out her likeness. And then in another room, there was a button you could push to send them an electric shock. La la la, I can't hear you. Natsuhiko smirked to see Mashido plug in her ears. Never knew she had such a weak spot. I guess there are some things you don't know about people even after you've been with them for so long. Sully looked on in wonder at Natsuhiko and Mashido's banter. There was no particular memorable lessons after that. Lunch break ended, and the afternoon classes swiftly came to a close. After school, Natsuhiko stretched and called out to the seat next to him. Alright Mashido, how about we head... He stopped before he could finish. Sully was staring directly at him. Right, you're coming with us, Sully? Natsuhiko felt an odd sense of tension and distance with her. There was something about her ominous story that bugged him too. It's kinda hard to talk to her, what do I do? What's wrong with you two? Still feeling awkward around each other? Let's try to act natural when you talk. Natural. Nah, wait. Mashido, what about you? How can you be so calm? Weren't you quivering in fear from Sully's story earlier today? What? Still talking about that? You worry too much, Natsuhiko. Or so you say. It was not as if he could lower his guard with the flip of a switch. Far from it. It was only stronger today compared to yesterday. Even if you tell us to talk naturally, it's not like we have any topics in common to talk about. Good grief, that's so antisocial of you. Let's see. What can we do about that? Mashido fell silent to ponder for a second, and then clapped her hands together. Okay, let's all go shopping today. Huh? Didn't we just go shopping the day before yesterday? That was grocery shopping, it doesn't count. Sully, you just moved in, so there's a bunch of stuff you need too, right? No, not particularly. Now. No need to hold back. I mean, it's just so boring to just go straight back home, isn't it? The weather's nice too. Perfect shopping weather. So how about the three of us go shopping? I'll go if Natsuhiko goes. Huh? Natsuhiko jumped at the abrupt answer. Was Sully perhaps trying to lower her guard around him too? If that were the case, it'd mean Natsuhiko was the only one being obstinate. Quite the awkward situation. Well, fine then. Okay, that settles it. Well, here we go. Sully nodded expressionlessly. Natsuhiko nodded with a sigh. And so Mashido took them to Center Street. But still, how did things turn out like this? As Natsuhiko pondered this turn of events, Mashido was to his right, enjoying herself. Sully was to his left, sulking. Sully, was there anything you want? Not in particular. Then what did we come here for? Natsuhiko had had the thought, but said nothing. He just followed silently wherever Mashido took him. I'm pretty happy with our stats still. Have you gotten everything you need for daily life? The professor already bought me the essentials like a towel, a toothbrush, and underwear. That should be plenty. He lives so simply. Even though you seem like a princess. Natsuhiko was surprised to learn about the sight of Sully, but that's when he noticed something. Wait a second, what about clothes? Huh? You were wearing a uniform even when you came to the house. Don't tell me those are the only clothes you have. Is that a problem? I knew it, we are talking about Mum here, so I guess she didn't even think about clothes for Sully. Dr. Tenkawa was completely unconcerned about clothing. After all, she spent her days in a lab coat year round, which made her apathetic about other people's clothing as well. Oh boy, that does sound like something the professor would do. In that case, let's go buy you some clothes, Sully. I have my uniform, so I'm good. That's no good, you're a girl after all. Besides, if you spend all day in your uniform, it's gonna get wrinkly. But I actually don't have that much money on me. Relax, Natsuhiko's picking up the tab. Huh? I am? Natsuhiko was terrified to be suddenly volunteered. But that's when Mashido whispered into his ear. Why not, Natsuhiko? It's just for clothes. I'm sure the professor wouldn't mind, right? Well, I guess. The professor left Natsuhiko in charge of a credit card for times like these. That's what they used to buy groceries, but Natsuhiko still showed day-to-day moderation. But still, Mashido, usually you're the penny pincher. I guess rare things do happen sometimes. But look, it's just so pitiful to leave Sully with only the clothes on her back. If you're that against it, I don't mind paying out of pocket. I'm fine either way, so what'll it be? Now that Masato had gone that far, it was very difficult for Natsuhiko to decline. Fine, I'll pay. Okay, that settles it then. Explain the circumstances to the professor for me, okay? And with that, Masato turned back to Salu. Salu, your sponsor's given the go-ahead, so pick out whatever clothes you'd like. Huh? Okay, if you two insist, then I shall have you make the purchases for me. Their phrasing was odd, but for the time being, it looked like they'd reached an agreement for the time being. For the time being. That was a weak reaction. Perhaps clothing was of no importance to Sully. Alrighty, in that case, let's go to the clothing store over there. Masato pointed to a nearby store. They're stocked with nice clothes at cheap prices. One look inside, and sure enough, they had racks full of tasteful clothing. I see, okay. I'll be waiting outside, so you two can... What are you talking about, Natsuhiko? Help us choose. We need to hear a boy's opinion too, right, Salia? Please. See? Come on, you two, Natsuhiko. Huh? Hold on now. Masato nearly dragged Natsuhiko and Salia into the clothing store. And thus, Masato started to choose clothes for Salia in high spirits. She had Salia try on different outfits, as if they were playing dress-up with a doll. And in the end, they singled out the clothes that suited Salia the best, made their purchases and left the store. As they walked through town, Masato turned to Salia and mused. Hey look, Salia, everyone's turning their heads. Salia shyly looked away. Salia had borrowed the dressing room to change into her new clothes right away. And not just her, but Masato too. Wait, why did you have to change too? No, before that, when did you even buy that? Why not? Picking out clothes for Salia got me in the mood to dress up too, see? And naturally, I paid out of my own pocket. How's it look? How's it look? Masato, I think you're cute too. Oh, you flatter me. Your big sis is super happy. With Masato patting her on the head, Salia looked just as cute as a typical girl her age. Looks like Masato's completely lowered her guard around Salia, huh? Masato doesn't have a guard. You know that. But Natsuhiko still had some misgivings. He still recalled what happened the day before yesterday in the back of his head. He remembered seeing Salia, the only one in the sea of onlookers who calmly looked at him instead of the accident. It's bizarre no matter how I think about it. Isn't it strange for her to look straight at me? And me alone, right after a big accident like that? Ask her about it, stupid. He seemed like an outsider coming to disrupt his peaceful days, but perhaps there'd be a reason for that, too, if he looked back far enough. Besides, even if she did come to protect him, there shouldn't be a reason to keep an eye on him from that far away. I want a logical explanation. Unless he had the explanation, he wouldn't be able to open his heart to Salia. And so he made up his mind and asked her, Hey Salia, got a moment? What is it? There was an accident here the day before yesterday. You were here back then too, weren't you? What about it? Huh? Wait, Salia, you were here at the scene of the accident too? Ah, then that means you saw me panicking too. Hold up for a second, Masato. There's something important I need to say. Masato gulped and fell silent at Natsuhiko's subdued voice. Sorry, continue. Thanks. So Salia, back then you didn't give the accident a second look, instead you looked my way, right? Huh? All the other onlookers had their eyes on the accident. So why were you alone looking at me? It's been bugging me ever since. Can you tell me your reasons? Salia silently pondered and then spoke with a sigh. It was just a coincidence that I happened to be at the scene of the accident. A coincidence? Yeah, that day I was walking through the city that I'd soon be living in. And then that accident happened. It's rude to stare at accidents, so I just meant to pass through, but that's when I heard a tremendous voice and stopped in surprise. Oh. The more he thought about it, the more that made sense. Even Natsuhiko himself was surprised at how he'd used telepathy. Then in that case, were you looking for the source of the voice? The telepathy? Yeah, I was looking around, and we happened to make eye contact. You look like the professor's son from how she described you, so I thought, could that possibly be him? It would be weird to go out of my way to ask you, so I gave up and left. That's all. Salia quickly explained herself in one breath. Oh, so that's all. I was wondering why you were acting so strange around Salia. Is that what was on your mind, Natsuhiko? Well, yeah, I guess it did bother me. Now that the mystery had been solved, the actual answer seemed quite trivial. But still, I think anyone would be bothered if they were in my position. If someone got into an accident before your eyes and then gave you some bizarre warning, and to top it all off, an unfamiliar girl holding some kind of stuffed animal stared at you? Natsuhiko glanced at Salia's stuffed animal. Just then, Q, said stuffed animal made a strange sound. It squeaked. It did it again. Natsuhiko remembered it had done so before. Last night when he talked to Salia in front of the house, that stuffed animal did indeed squeak. That thing's been bugging me too. So, what exactly is that stuffed animal? It seems to squeak from time to time. It's not a stuffed animal, it's a device called ARMS. ARMS? Atmosphere Reading Mascot System. So you mean it can pick up on moods and stuff? Huh? What's that supposed to mean? The stuffed animal squeaked again at Natsuhiko's confusion. Phew. Natsuhiko, this ARMS device just looked at you and made a confused squeak, right? Yeah. It analysed your voice and facial expression and made the judgment that Natsuhiko was confused. And so it said Q to tell me then. In other words, it's an automatic response device that reads other people's emotions and reacts accordingly. I see, so it's basically a high-level pet robot then. Pet robots in general had gotten quite popular recently. Natsuhiko had heard that their functionalities had been advancing over the years, so he assumed this was just one of those advancements. Now that sure sounds new. I've never heard of an emotion reading function, you know? Is that even possible? The emotions people have, the impressions they give, and their atmospheres in their entirety have been a topic of research in computer science since the 20th century. But it wasn't until very recently that those things could be quantified. So this is a cutting-edge device then. Sounds expensive. I understand why you carry it around with you everywhere. I don't particularly carry it because it's expensive. I carry it because I need it. Because you need it? Because she can't read emotions. That's why she doesn't seem to have any. To be honest, I'm very poor at understanding the nuances of people's emotions and facial expressions. It's thanks to this thing I can finally communicate properly with people. Huh? Really? Is it because you lived in France? Is it hard to understand Japanese facial expressions? Yes, something like that. That's why I was uneasy about adapting to a new life, but with ARMS I think I can somehow manage. So that's how it was. Natsuhiko felt as if he'd seen a side of Sally we'd never seen before. She felt uneasy, so I guess she wasn't putting on airs after all. Let's crank her up. Natsuhiko felt like he finally understood a lot of things. Like why she'd seemed so pouty at school, why the ARMS device had squeaked when they talked last night, and why Sally reacted the way she did. Those were all signs of anxiety. That's why she acted that way. Natsuhiko suddenly found himself seeing Sally in a different light, and at the same time he felt slightly embarrassed. Now that he thought about it, not once since Sally arrived did Natsuhiko treat her favourably. He just rejected her under the pretense that she was a girl he didn't really understand, which was by no means a good attitude to take. What am I, a kid? After chiding himself and pondering for a moment, he timidly called out to Sally. Say, Sally, what is it? Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for always acting so hostile towards you. Oh, that. It's okay, I don't mind at all, so there's no need for you to be concerned. No, but still, it was really mean of me, I'm sorry. It was still as awkward an exchange as ever, but it wasn't unpleasant at all. Something that had been lurking in the depths of Natsuhiko's heart had suddenly thawed out. And as if she had sensed the change in Natsuhiko, Mashido smiled. That's great. We've cleared up all those misunderstandings. Now we can begin our friendship anew, right? Hey, don't say stuff like that, you ruined the mood. But still, I'm impressed, Natsuhiko. You actually apologized. You know, you have to say those things out loud or nobody will ever know, right? True, it helps if you say what's on your mind. There are some things that ARMS can't cover for after all. Okay, I'll keep that in mind as we go forward. He ended up phrasing that awkwardly due to his embarrassment. Mashido smiled devilishly and then addressed Salia. By the way, Salia, what's the doll's name? Huh? Like I said, it's ARMS. No, that's not what I mean. I mean, what's yours name specifically? I mean, you're supposed to give pets names, right? Like Fluffy or Spot, something like that. I never thought about that. Then why don't you name it? It's more endearing to give it a name. True, that does sound good, but I can't think of a name. So I'll let you name it, Mashido. Huh? Me? Are you sure? That's such an important responsibility, though. But you were so quick to decide my nickname. Now that's true. Besides, you're good at that sort of thing, aren't you, Mashido? You're right, okay, I'll think of a name. Let's see. I know, how about Alice? Alice? As in Wonderland? No, not that Alice. The Alice that wrote the sci-fi novel Sully was reading yesterday. Yesterday? Oh, that one she had at school. Now that you mention it, Mashido did appear to have known about the book Sully was reading yesterday. But Mashido, that's wrong. That book was written by James. Sorry, that's wrong. That was a pen name. The author's real name was Alice. I didn't know that. You're so knowledgeable, Mashido. So what do you think? It's a sci-fi kind of item, and it sounds cute, doesn't it? Yeah, I'll use it. We're yellow. We're yellow, and we are good. As Sully spoke, she gently stroked her ARMS device, now known as Alice, on the head. I think it's good too. Sounds cute. Good job, Mashido. Don't praise me just for thinking of a name like that. You're embarrassing me. Before Natsuhiko had noticed, the somewhat serious mood had completely cleared away. But you did good. Looks like she likes it too. Ah, shucks. To be honest, I wasn't too sure of it. I'm used to giving people nicknames, but it's been a long time since I named a pet. A pet? Did you have any pets, Mashido? We did in the past, remember? You and me and Yuri too. Are you talking about Sirius? Yeah, it really brings you back, huh? And with that, Natsuhiko recalled a distant memory. It was a story from back when Natsuhiko and Mashido still didn't get along. One day, Natsuhiko went to the park with snacks in hand. I hope Mashido's not there. If she is, I'm sure we'll get into another fight again. He had a bag of biscuits for his snack that day. If Mashido were there, he thought he'd go show it off. But when he got to the park, Natsuhiko couldn't believe what he saw. It was Mashido and a ferocious stray dog. Grrr. The dog growled and stared at Mashido. No. What do you want? Go away. Woof. Roar. Somebody save me. Mashido tearfully pleaded. But there was nobody else around. Noticing that nobody else could save her, Natsuhiko rushed down. Stop. And forced his way between Mashido and the stray dog. Hey puppy, don't bully Mashido. Huh? Natsuhiko? The words spilled out of Natsuhiko's mouth surprised the dog, Mashido, and even Natsuhiko himself. Natsuhiko, why? I don't know. Thinking on his feet, he declared, she's my rival. So I won't let anyone else have their way with Mashido but me. That was Natsuhiko paraphrasing the lines of the one superhero TV show he was obsessed with at the time. Despite the plagiarism, the assertiveness of the line was good enough to overpower the stray dog. As Natsuhiko stared the dog down, Mashido whispered behind him, Natsuhiko, don't tell me you came to my rescue. I didn't do it for you, I did it out of my heroic obligation. Trying to act tough is cool and all, but what do you plan on doing? I planned ahead. Natsuhiko slowly took a biscuit out of the bag in his pocket and tossed it to the dog. The dog whined and proceeded to devour the biscuit. He ate so heartily that he paid no attention to the kids. Okay, here's our chance. Let's get him while he's distracted. Wait, Natsuhiko? The dog finished the biscuit in the blink of an eye, and then let out a friendly whine. Huh? He suddenly got all quiet. Maybe he was just hungry. Oh, that's kind of anticlimactic. Natsuhiko's shoulders sank as the dog approached him. What, you want another biscuit? Fine, I'll give you my share too. Here, eat up. Natsuhiko ripped up the biscuit bag and poured it onto the ground. I guess it's better this way, so we don't have to fight. A hero's kindness, I guess. Without revealing how relieved he felt, Natsuhiko spoke to Mashido. Look, it's okay now, Mashido. And when he turned to look at Mashido... I was so scared. She suddenly started crying. Hey, don't cry. Nah. No matter how much Natsuhiko tried to calm me down, Mashido kept crying. The dog just kept eating the biscuits beside them. And then, about 5 minutes later, Mashido finally stopped crying. Hey, you okay now? Yeah. Mashido looked bashfully at Natsuhiko as she said this. Mashido mumbled her words. What? If you have something to say, then just say it already. Right as Natsuhiko lost his patience. Woof. The stray dog leapt at Natsuhiko. And then the dog started licking his face. Woof. Oh, what? What are you trying to pull? Maybe giving him that biscuit tamed him. I see. Anyway, stop licking my face, it tickles. Natsuhiko firmly spoke as the dog obeyed. Perhaps he was a smarter dog than he appeared. Still, you look like you got promise. Want to be my friend? Woof. Yeah, what an obedient guy. Natsuhiko happily patted the dog on the head. Mashido spoke gently. He's so cute. No, he's cool, not cute. Cute is weak. Well, I don't care either way. More importantly, he's a stray, isn't he? Well, I guess he is. He doesn't have a collar after all. Then why do we keep him? No, I can't keep a dog at my place. My mum's got allergies. I see. My dad hates animals too. Mashido thought for a while before clapping her hands together. Then why don't we keep him in this park? We can feed him here. I think we can do that. Let's do it. Natsuhiko approved of Mashido's plan. It seemed like a pretty good idea. What do we name him? Let's see. I know. How about how does Sirius sound? Sirius? Like the star? It's the name of the dog constellation, I think. And it's also the name of our city's rescue squad. A rescue squad, huh? That's cool. Okie dokie. From now on, your name's Sirius. Woof. The dog heartily replied as if he liked the name too. Good for you, Sirius. Woof. Mashido smiled at the happy Sirius. As he saw her smile, Natsuhiko remembered the question that had been bugging him. By the way, Mashido, were you trying to say something earlier? Huh? No, nothing. What? You weirdo. What do you mean, weirdo? Stupid. They turned away from each other in a huff. But starting that day, Natsuhiko and Mashido's mutual feuding gradually came to an end. Yeah, I almost forgot about that. Now that he thought about it, he'd gotten along with Mashido ever since that time. They didn't get along at first, but it was an animal that brought them together back then as well. It's almost like the situation now. Natsuhiko looked at Alice. This time Alice let out a gentle squeak. Cue, cue. Ah, Alice squeaked again. I've never heard that squeak before, Natsuhiko. What are you thinking now? I was just feeling a little nostalgic. Natsuhiko answered sourly with a smile. Now then, we've still got time. What do you want to do? There's nothing more I need to buy. Natsuhiko thought they should go home in that case, but Mashido spoke up as if something had crossed her mind. Wait, you two, is it okay if we stop by the grocery store? For just a little bit? Huh? But I thought we already stocked the refrigerator. No, I mean yesterday. We only had plain dinner with the food we had on hand. I think we're already maxed out here, we're good. So I was thinking I should be a little more extravagant tonight as a sort of welcome party for Sally. I see, that sounds good. Now that he thought about it, they didn't have any sort of welcome party. But he was unsure if it was really appropriate to throw one now. So, can I choose what I want to eat? Of course, so what would you like, Sally? Beefsteak? Natsuhiko was caught off guard at Sully's vigorous response. You sure know what you want, huh? But still, calling beefsteak bifuteki is such old-fashioned Japanese. You're so ignorant, Natsuhiko. Bifuteki comes from the French le beefsteak. It means a cut of meat. It's not an abbreviation of beefsteak. Well, I never knew that. Anyway, you want to eat beef, right? Yeah, so much. Hurry, Mashido, let's go now. Hold on, wait for me. Mashido and Sully ran off. Their exchange was so peaceful. Natsuhiko couldn't help but smile. I guess this is nice. He chased after them as he mused to himself. Natsuhiko felt just the slightest bit of euphoria in this moment. After they finished their shopping, Natsuhiko and the girls rode the bus back home. They then passed through the entryway together. And with that, we're out of time for this episode, as you can probably tell. So, yeah. Looks like Sully is part of the crew now, and Natsuhiko's not being a tosser about it anymore, so cool. Let the good times roll, I guess, until, 5 days from now, or whenever it is that we end up in Labo that's on fire and shit. Till then, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next one.